I was just like, you know what? Like, I feel like if I started my own thing at this point, it would do really well. And so it was a tough decision, but after 3 years and building all my friendships and all of this stuff, it was such a tough decision, man. I decided to quit and start my own company, Bravado Branding.
Hey everybody, happy Wednesday. By the time you're listening to this, it's going to be Wednesday because it's about to be Wednesday in 6 minutes. And I'm definitely not uploading this in the next 6 minutes. I am cranking. I'm just cranking out these episodes. I'm at the point where I'm just trying to make stuff really as fast as I can. Mainly just so I can fail faster and get better at this whole thing. I've learned so much from these first 15 episodes, and I cannot wait to see how much progress I'll have made by the next 15 episodes. Let's just jump into this. My guest today is my friend Austin Distel. He is a tech entrepreneur, a travel hacker, digital marketer, and much, much more. He actually lives in Annapolis, Maryland right now, but he was in town for a couple of days, so I was super excited to be able to carve out a little podcast here. And we've known each other for a couple of years now, but from the day that I met him, I knew that he was a special guy. He's always been someone who's constantly getting shit done. He's constantly moving, pouring all of his energy into whatever business or project that he's working on. And he's just a born entrepreneur. He started his first business when he was 12, started a lawn care company, and he ended up selling that company 10 years later. He actually talks about this in the podcast. And we didn't mention this in the podcast, but I thought it was worth mentioning that a few years ago, actually not even a few years ago, I think it was last year, he was a finalist in the Choose ATL Ultimate Job Interview Contest. And it was kind of like a mini version of Shark Tank, but he ended up actually winning first place and the grand prize of $10,000 for his pitch about his company, Bravado Branding, which is super, super impressive. There was a ton of applicants for that, and he actually ended up winning, so that was amazing. But his current project that he's working on is called the Entrepreneur Alliance, and that's why he moved up to Annapolis to work with the team there. But it's basically a global club for entrepreneurs that supplies the trainings, resources, and connections to building an amazing business. So if any of that interests you, you should definitely join the alliance like Austin and I. But anyways, this is pretty much one of the shorter podcasts that I've done, but this thing is packed full of awesome content. Austin shared some awesome stories and some really good practical stuff. So without any further ado, here is my friend Austin Distel. All right, Austin Distel, we're live, sir.
Let's do it.
Awesome. So we're in my car right now, so hopefully I'm able to kind of make this as de-hummified as possible. Hopefully we're not hearing the car as much as you would think.
Yeah.
So hopefully the idea would be you won't even notice. So, but anyways, this is my friend Austin Distel.
What's up, guys?
The artist formerly known as Austin Mueller.
You might have known me once in a while by that name.
It's funny because actually in my phone you're still saved as that. I need to change the last name in there.
So the story behind the change from Austin Mueller to Austin Distel, actually my old name was David Mueller.
Really?
Yeah, so I was always going by my middle name, and any of you guys that are like me that go by your middle name know just how annoying it is to have like a name that everybody, like teachers called you in class. And so I always went by Austin. David was my dad's name. It didn't define me. And then my parents are divorced, so I ended up, and also my grandpa, I'm really close with him. So I took on his last name. He was the very last male Distel in the family. And when he passed away, it would have ended with him. So I saw an opportunity of like my graduation last year from UGA. I wanted like have a start for like the Distel lineage to go on. And I thought it was also a great time to change my first name to Austin. So
cool.
I dropped David out of my name, and then I changed my last name, Muller, to my middle name. So now it's Austin Muller Distel.
Okay, nice.
Story of the name.
That's cool. I always like that idea of carrying on the family name because, like, in America, we don't really take that very seriously. Yeah. But in other countries, like I lived with a family in Italy, and they were huge on the whole last name thing. Like, the kids shared the both parents' last name because the mom's side of the family was really well-to-do kind of family, and also the dad's family was too. So they like combined the two last names. They didn't just take the dad's last name, which is kind of funny.
It's like Game of Thrones or something.
Yeah, it really was. It was kind of crazy. That's a whole nother thing. They were
Lannisters.
Like, yeah. But so I like to kind of start off my podcast with a little bit of context, and you already kind of gave a little bit, kind of how you're sharing the story of how you changed your name and all that. So, but kind of just give us the quick 0 to 60 of Austin, or previously David's life, kind of. Obviously, you're a totally different person than when you were a kid, so kind of just give us that.
Actually, I feel like I'm the exact same person I was as a kid.
Really? That's kind of cool.
If you look at like all my old photos of when I was like, 2, 4, 8, 12, I was always hustling in some funny way. Like, there's a photo of me just pretending to play guitar on the front porch, like just strumming with a hat out, like wanting people to pay me for that. And then when I was like 8 years old, I went on to have lemonade stands, and I was always thinking about like the marketing of it, right? Like I drew pictures. I love drawing. I always love art. And so I would say like, what font, wasn't thinking this, but like what font and what colors will sell my lemonade most. And I used to like make different banners and billboards at like 8 years old. And then when I was 12, I guess you could say I started my first company. It was this lawn care business. And back in the day, full circle, my initials were David Austin Muller, DAM.
Damn.
And so my company name was Damn Good Lawn Care.
That's awesome.
Ended up selling that company when I was 22, so 9 years in business.
Wow. And you started when you were 12?
I started when I was 12.
Wow.
Here's the thing, man, is I wanted to be independent, and like I always hated asking my mom to go to the movies and like watch Batman, right? So like I wanted my own money. I wanted to be able to get the big gulp if I wanted to, and like priorities of a 12-year-old, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so I started my first lawn care company really just so I could not ever have to ask permission to do anything. That's awesome. That was a big thing for me.
That's awesome.
Now I was successful by that. By 13, I was making like $1,000 a month at 13, so I never had to worry about like asking for money. But
that's awesome. As a 13-year-old, that's incredible.
But I got addicted to it, and I loved the game. I loved the smell of fresh lawn care, but I also loved building something that's outside of myself. Like, it's very rewarding, not just money. I'm not saying it was like a monetary thing that was rewarding. It was an accomplishment of like every time I got a new client, like that was a rush. Or when I hired my first team, I used to hire my friends so that I would convince them to work for me so they wouldn't go and work at Publix, because I wanted them for us to go and play whenever we wanted to. So we'd do a couple lawns and go play baseball, right? Like we made our own schedule, and I wanted them to be like time freedom with me. And like, of course, we got to work and we got to make money, but if it's on your own time, like being self-employed is so much better in every way, I believe personally. I think that if you have the opportunity to do what an employee does, but just on your own schedule, like that's worth going to your business, even if you make the same, even if you don't plan on being filthy rich.
Or even if you make a little less.
Honestly, yeah. Even if you make a little bit less, I would so much rather make 50 grand a year working for myself than 80 grand a year working for somebody else.
That's powerful. That's very true. That's an awesome way to look at it.
Yeah.
So you throughout that time, from when you started it to when you sold it, do you mind asking how big the business was when you sold it? Was it?
Yeah. I made about like 70,000.
Wow. That's awesome.
That was pretty cool.
Did a local lawn care business absorb it, or what happened?
Yeah, just like one of the other guys in the neighborhood who also does lawns. It was just...
He kind of just absorbed your clients?
Yeah. Gotcha. Give him the clients, give him my equipment, and it was also like it was kind of a burden for me because I was at UGA. Yeah. So running a business 2 hours away
Yeah.
is pretty annoying, actually.
Yeah. So after high school, where'd you go to high school again?
I went to Milton High School.
Nice, Milton High School. And then, and at this point, just to kind of give people context, were you living with your mom at the time, or were your parents still together, or what was the deal?
No, so my parents divorced when I was 2.
Oh, okay, so it's been...
Yeah, it's always been separate.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I feel like I had a really unique growing up experience. So I had pretty much 2 lives growing up all the way until I moved here officially in 8th grade to Alpharetta.
Where were you born?
I was born in Florida.
Okay, nice.
And then when they got divorced, basically I was up here in Atlanta. And so during the week, I was with my mom out in Gwinnett. I was in like the Parkview High School district.
Gotcha.
And during the week, I was with her. On the weekends, I was with my dad. And so he would come and pick me up, and he would drop me off on Monday morning. And it gave me 2 lives. And it's interesting because I was never friends with anybody from class because we wouldn't hang out on the weekends. And then all my best friends were actually here in Alpharetta, but I wouldn't see them for 5 days in a row until the weekend. And so it was a very divided life until my mom decided to move out to Alpharetta as well. And so then they were like down the street from each other. I could go back and forth easier. And that's when I met all my best friends, Felipe Valenzuela and Julian Torok and, that whole crew.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, I feel like it was really integral to the way I am now.
Yeah.
And the way I think about friendships is like, it doesn't matter where I am in the world. Like, I can still have deep friendships.
That's so true.
I think it built that up for me, not having my best friends with me the entire week, but when we were on the weekend together, it was like nothing changed.
Yeah.
I did that for 10 plus years.
Wow. And was this like, did you have a phone at the time? Could you call them, or was it like...
I got a phone when I was in like 3rd grade.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, it was the sick new Razor phone.
Oh, nice.
It was a flip. Oh my God.
Everyone was super jealous.
Dude, nobody else got phones until like 7th grade.
Me too.
But I was a low-key kid. So like my mom worked 3 jobs. I would have to let myself in at 8 years old by myself, and she didn't know that I was home.
Yeah.
And safe. So
you have to.
So at 8 years old, I got my first phone.
That's really cool. That's such an interesting, because I was totally opposite. My parents were together. I went to a private Christian school. I was super sheltered. I didn't get a phone until like 8th grade. So it was, I got kind of slowly introduced to that, which totally, for better or for worse, changed me into the person I kind of became and all that. But it was interesting because in my podcast with my friend Elizabeth, she was episode 8, I believe, her parents were divorced. And she kind of talked about how having the split lives kind of helped her form her own opinions as well, because her dad would tell her things that were contradicting that her mom would say, and almost on purpose, just to spite her, sort of. And she was just kind of like, well, what the hell am I supposed to believe? I'm getting these conflicting things. I thought parents were supposed to know everything. They're supposed to tell you all the right stuff, but they're telling me different things. So it gave her this perspective of thinking for herself and having a cool perspective. And that's something that not jealous in the fact that like, oh, damn, wish my parents were divorced, but jealous in the fact that my parents were always telling me the same thing. They were always trying to figure out the exact, we're going to come to a consensus and tell Andrew this.
Yeah.
And so I just thought that they were right all the time. And no offense, Mom and Dad, but you're not. Like sometimes there's something that...
What a soul-crushing time as a kid when you realize your parents aren't superheroes.
It's
right?
true.
Like,
yeah.
I remember the first, always thinking that whatever my parents did was the actual, the right thing to do.
Totally.
They taught me what right and wrong was. And, my mom always says, I'm the experiment that went right. Because it could have gone wrong in so many ways. Back when I was a kid, she was working in the bar industry. And she was a young parent. I'm older now than when she had me.
Wow.
And so she used to keep me underneath the pool table because smoke rises.
So in the bar, you were hanging out, but you were underneath the pool table hanging out?
Exactly.
You were playing Game Boy or something, or what were you doing? Just hanging out?
Just hanging out. She worked at a place called Lulu's in downtown Atlanta, and they put these plastic gators into the fish bowls. It was one of those drinks that you share with everybody that, man, if you drank this thing alone, you'd be on the floor too.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And so you had this this plastic gator, and I always like fight them, you know, like as kids do. They just hit each other and make noises, and that's what I was always doing underneath the pool table. And it's actually also how I learned how to play pool pretty well. I love playing pool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. I'm pretty bad at pool, as proven the other night. Me and my friend were like, hey, we were at Ormsby's.
Yeah.
We were like, oh, let's play against these two guys, and they smoked us. We were done in like 5 rounds. I'm like, shit. It was bad. But that's really cool, man. That's very interesting. So, and you're an only child, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, and that obviously kind of has an effect as well. You got to kind of figure out how to entertain yourself and be by yourself and love yourself.
I love my alone time. Yeah, I definitely love my alone time, and I'm okay with being alone. However, I always wanted a brother. In fact, every Christmas I always asked, hey, you know, Santa, will you give me a little brother? You know, now I'm kind of glad
That's not how it works.
Yeah, I know, right?
That's funny, man. So, but you always kind of wanted that growing up, and now you're glad that it didn't happen, or?
Yeah, I like my independence. Now I don't know anything else, so I feel like if I had a brother, that would also be a cool thing, you know, to always dream big with. And, you know, I have close friends, but like not like a brotherly friend.
I got you. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I have one younger brother, and he's like 3.5 years younger, but since we were so close growing up, it almost seems like we're closer in age. So having a brother sometimes is awesome, sometimes it can suck because you're fighting and stuff, but now we're really close, so it's ended up good. But that's really cool, man. So then you went, kind of to fast forward, you went to UGA, like you said.
Yep.
And you went there all 4 years?
Actually,
5 years?
I started off at Alabama, which was a $40,000 mistake for me.
So the first year was 40 grand?
It was. That was
Damn.
more expensive than all my years at UGA.
What was the reasoning behind going there?
I got caught up in the culture, so I went out there as a senior in high school for an Alabama game, and if you've ever been to Alabama's campus, it is just so much energy, so much fun, and you say Roll Tide out there, and you have 30 friends all around you. Like, they're all screaming, Roll Tide, back at you, which, like, some of the biggest fans didn't even go to the school, and, like, they give an awful rep for what Alabama's like. Ended up going there, and, like, I had a good time. I can definitely say it wasn't for me. I'm not a conformist, and everybody there, if you are not Greek, if you're not a Pike, I should say, then you don't belong in the bar. If you're talking to a sorority girl, first question they always ask you is, what fraternity are you in? And it just seemed like, you know, old money, where everybody just feels entitled.
Totally.
And
everyone's basically living in these mansions, like, because everyone's living in their fraternity house that's beautiful. They're essentially living in these mansions. I've mentioned this kind of on a podcast before, too. You know, they live in these mansions. They have a person that cooks for them. They're living with all their friends. Their parents are probably paying for everything. It's basically like paradise.
Yeah.
And so you were just not into the whole conforming into that box of being, I am this, and so now people will view me this way and all that.
Yeah, definitely. Like I'm always about, like, how do you be unique and how do you be, you know, not average. Be the opposite of average in every way. You know, you see the majority going in one direction, you should go in the other.
Gotcha. And so you were just like, I don't want to be a basic bitch here at Alabama, so I'm transferring.
Yeah.
So you transferred to UGA, which in its defense still has that culture there, but it's a little bit less.
I didn't feel it much when I was out there.
Cool.
When you go to the bars, people don't. I mean, it was probably the bars I went to as well. Like, I know there are very Greek bars in Athens, but people don't hold it over your head if you're GDI.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know what that means, it means you're a goddamn independent. It means you're not affiliated with any kind of Greek life or whatever. So if you're a G'd, then you can get out. But seriously, that's how some people look at it. They're like,
it is.
If you're a GDI, then what are you? Get out of here.
Yep, exactly. And so I didn't feel that, though, in Athens. And Athens is a very creative town, and I think that they encourage uniqueness, right? Like being in a band, being an artist. The art school's really big. The music school's really big. Now, I didn't go to either. I was in the business school. But I think that people recognize that there's more to life outside of that kind of college life. Like they look at, like, college is, yes, a good time, but it's not going to be the best 4 years of my life. They see past 4 years, which I feel like a lot of other colleges don't see.
Yeah, I totally feel you on that. Everyone's always saying, oh, college is the best 4 years of your life. And when I hear that, I kind of feel sad for some people because it's like, it should be a great 4 years, but it shouldn't necessarily be the best. So I don't think we can share your story without talking about Vima either.
No,
because that's actually how we met too. We met through a company called Vima, and I've talked about this here and there on some of my podcasts. The one with Parker Stiles, we kind of got into it a bit. But basically, kind of share your story of how you got introduced to Vima and what it meant to you and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm just letting you guys know as listeners, this is the most intimate podcast interview I've done. I do about 4 podcasts a week, 4 interviews a week.
That's awesome.
And I'm sharing a lot more than I ever have about
cool,
myself, and not because normally I talk about tactics, right?
Yeah.
How do you increase your conversion rates, or how do you start a global business, right?
Yes. Well, I definitely want to get into that too.
Sure.
It's some practical stuff, but I like kind of giving people context too because it's kind of fun and.
Yeah, no, this is fun. I like it. I like it more too. I like having my guard down, not having to worry about whose platform am I promoting and affiliate deals and all that, right? But okay, so here's the Vima story. I was still running my lawn care business from college at UGA, and I was pre-dental at the time.
Pre-dental.
I was pre-dental. I was 2 years into the biology major. And I thought about that lifestyle of one, I played hockey, guys, and so I have some fake teeth. And so I got used to going to the dentist a lot. And it just seemed like an amazing job. He had the most beautiful women around him all the time. All these, I think they're called estheticians or something like that, right? They're all beautiful. And he doesn't work on Mondays or Fridays. And he gets paid a ton of money, and he had a sick car. And so I'm like, that's who I want to be. It was pre-dental, and I was doing really well in school. And I guess I'll share this too of why I feel like I was doing pretty well in school. This is going to sound so bad, but I was in a long-term relationship in high school, and you know how they say the best revenge is massive success?
Yeah, totally.
Frank Sinatra said that, a big hero of mine. I love Frank. And so I was really pushing to prove that, I'm the biggest thing you missed out on. And so I worked really hard at doing well in school. And, I'm going to be this guy, this dentist who has a great practice and a great lifestyle. And, you'll rue the day, right? No, it wasn't that hardcore, but it was I wanted to prove that, to myself that I'm gonna be the best. And so had a 4.3 coming out of Alabama when I transferred. Had 98s in most of my biology classes and all these other classes, which says not for my intelligence, but maybe about the accolades of Alabama, maybe. So I then transferred to UGA and continued with my 4.0. And then I here's what happened. So again, we're going back to the Vima story. Let's pull this thing full circle. So, doing well in school. I had a business as well that was doing well. And then I also, again, I'm always trying to make money somehow, right? I started a fake ID business in college because I was bored as shit. And I thought...
Wow, so were you actually printing them? Or
yeah, I was printing them.
Wow, so did you have a card printer or what did you...
Yeah, I just learned how to do it,
yeah.
right? And so
it's a good business.
Yeah.
Supply and demand.
And I got good at Photoshop, which, I always like Photoshop, right? Because I was very about artsy stuff and learning how to, make advertisements. So I thought, yeah, I can get all my 20-year-old friends into bars. We all go out, have fun. And then I was going to a Luke Bryan concert. And I used my fake ID to try and buy all of us beer. And it got taken right outside the Luke Bryan concert. And so I went in Luke Bryan, didn't think anything about it.
So it got taken outside, but you were still allowed to go into the concert.
Yeah, I was allowed to go in, just not with my beer. And so it wasn't by a cop though, it was by, the teller at the gas station right outside the concert. So I just went in, I was frustrated, but it was whatever, I'll do a hey mister or something, right? And 2 days later, I get a text from my roommate in the middle of class, and this is one of the scariest moments of my life. He said, "Hey, Austin, the cops are here at the front door and they're looking for you. What should I tell them? And I'm in class, and I remember the lecture, and I froze and just, my mind is blank, and I'm shivering, I'm scared, and there's a warrant for my arrest.
Whoa.
Yeah, there's a warrant for my arrest, and I have to turn myself in. So I remember like pulling out money out of my bank account, my business's bank account, giving it to my friend and saying, hey, I got to turn myself in.
And so
and
I
need you to bail me out. And so that happened. And I ended up getting, I went to jail for 8 hours and ended up just really reflecting on like, you know, is this really who I am? You know, do I need to think about making money with every, you know, little thing? You know, I saw an opportunity to make some money with making fake IDs. And again, like I didn't get charged with like making tons. It's just like mine.
Because sometimes I've heard that if you get that charge, something like you can get charged with terrorist stuff because you're making like fake government documents or something weird.
I owned up to it. And
that's cool.
You know, I was honest. I'm a really honest guy. And so I was just, I just really have a hard time telling a fib.
Yeah.
It's like conscious wise.
Yeah.
So anyway, I owned up in front of the judge. He understood. He decided to take it from, down to a misdemeanor. And then also just tons of community service. It's like 80 hours of community service. And also paid a lot of money for a lawyer. And, okay, so how does this relate to Vima? Well, I was stuck in my house. All my friends could still go out in Athens, which has like 80 bars. And they could all go out. I was then stuck at home because there's no way I would go to jail for a while, not like years or whatever, but I would have to go back to jail. I'd be like probably increased to a felony now.
Were you on like house arrest or what was it?
No, it wasn't house arrest or anything. It
but
was
why
just
did you have to stay?
Probation, right? So
you weren't allowed to go to a bar?
Wasn't allowed to go to a bar. Wasn't allowed in a bar that didn't serve food.
Because were you also under 21?
I was under 21.
Okay,
I was 20.
makes sense.
Yeah. So on top of that, alcohol and drug test every 2 weeks or something like that. And so anyway, I was really limited. I wasn't going to take the risk of going to the bars. So what was I going to do with all this extra time? So I just started reading a lot. And within 2 weeks, and I was also searching for opportunity. I was just like looking online for stuff. And 2 weeks into it, I read a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And literally the next morning, I changed my major to marketing.
Wow. What inspired you to read that book?
Boredom. I mean, like, seriously, I was so bored for those 2 weeks. I was reading it at night.
Did you have
about
it in your
business.
house or something, or?
I don't remember like who recommended it, but I was just like really trying to dive into personal development. And at night, like I was just really focused on like how do I become a better entrepreneur. It's like, well, I guess I might as well take my business a little bit more seriously, right? Instead of like going downtown, focus on how do I grow this thing. Read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I said, you know what? Dentist is not for me. And thought about the cash flow quadrant, if you guys have read the book, and realized that I'm not the self-employed type. While I believe that's a great route, I'm more of the big business entrepreneur, how do you scale kind of guy.
Cool.
And so, yeah, read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Within about a week of that, then I get a knock on my door. Hey, Austin, you need to come and check this out, man. Dude, you're gonna love this. This is like exactly for you. I walk next door, they're having a little party, and there's energy drinks everywhere, and it's my best friend too who showed it to me, Julian, and me and Julian always thought about business ideas, and he's like, Austin, this is the one. This is what we need to build. It's already set up for us. We don't have to think about the product. You don't have to worry about finances. You don't have to worry about the lawyers. You don't have to worry about any of the business setup. All we got to do is sell this thing. All we got to do is market at scale and open up franchises. So he explained it to me, and it made sense, about the McDonald's version, right? So think about how Roy Kroc scaled McDonald's. And back in the 60s, it was all about hamburgers, one joint. The McDonald's brothers, they only thought about, in Pasadena, California, how do I sell more hamburgers within 60 seconds or less? All right, so that was the business model. And then here Roy Kroc comes in, and he's a milkshake salesman. And he sees their 60-second burger system and says, I can duplicate this over and over and over again. And so from there, he bought the McDonald's franchise, the one location in Pasadena, California, and ends up duplicating it over and over and over again, then turns it into an opportunity. And he says, hey, if you guys have X amount of dollars and this amount of qualified experience, I'll let you open your own McDonald's franchise in your own name, and you can use our 60-second system to build your business. And so that's the beginning of franchising. Roy Kroc changed the game. And that's exactly what network marketing was to me. I saw a way in which I can use somebody's 60-second system and duplicate it over and over and over again. And the more hamburgers that I sold, the more money I made. And so if you want to relate this back to Vima, it was like how many supplements, of either protein supplements, of nutrition supplements of any kind, how many can I sell every month? And the more I sell, the better my personal franchise does. But I have an opportunity here to make more franchises. And I can hire other friends to open up more locations, and they can start their own business, and they can sell more protein shakes. And it grows from there. In the same way that you can so here's the summary of the Roy Kroc experience is, yes, you can make some money selling hamburgers, but you can make a lot of money, unlimited amount of money, by opening up more McDonald's. And so the Vima opportunity in summary was get customers and also get affiliates. And customers will make you some money, but affiliates, opening new businesses, will make you a lot of money. Not because you're signing them up, but because more of the fact that they're going to be selling more product. And for every little bit, you get a couple pennies for every single time they sell a protein shake. But it can go on and get really big. Think about this at a global scale. I end up, building, and same with Andrew, a pretty good sized business in it. I probably had, at my highest point, 700 franchises in my business, in I don't know, probably 15 countries, something like that. And you know what though, I wasn't making that much money, and I think it's I want to be honest about that. Like it takes a lot of work, and I don't even know if we really should. I don't know if we deserve that much money for what we were producing for the company. And the reason why I say that is, well, we are the sales department, right? They still had a lot of other expenses per product.
Lots of overhead.
Lots of overhead. And again,
shipping costs were really expensive too.
It's a risk and reward scenario here. So the risk of going and starting a franchise is a lot lower risk than starting your own restaurant. So if you want to start your own burger joint, you could do that. The probability that you're going to create not only a great product, but then going to be able to sell that product and multiply your own restaurant is less likely than starting a McDonald's franchise and making money there.
Exactly.
Right? And
My dad's a franchise owner. He owns a Dippin' Dots franchise.
Sweet. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, so he didn't create the products. All he's got to do is he just copy and pastes what Dippin' Dots gives him, drops it into a mall, and he's got a business. All he's got to do is pay the upfront franchise fee, he pays for the product that he buys from them, and then he can mark it up for whatever he wants, basically.
Exactly. Now, he has to give Dippin' Dots some money back, right?
Kind of. He had to pay that. It's different than typical ones. It's kind of better, in my opinion. Basically, he just pays a markup on all the product that they sell him, and then so they make their cut there. And he does have to pay a franchise fee every couple years.
Okay.
And he had to pay the initial one up front that was pretty big. But besides that, I don't think they take a kickback of all of his sales, which is unique from a lot of other franchises.
Yeah, normally you have to pay a royalty.
Exactly.
So with that being said, with the franchise, it's a risk and reward. So if you were to start your own nutrition company, you're going to also have to have all of this overhead, but you deserve the equity out of it. You deserve more money. And so, being in Vima, you are building somebody else's business. And we'll talk about, my opinion now looking back after a year and a half of how network marketing is and what I recommend it or not. I'll get to that here in a second. But look at the risk and reward. And if you feel like you want to go into risk and do your own business and start your own thing, the potential reward is much higher. But in network marketing, it's often people's first time building a business, and so the risk is lower. You have a support system, you have everything made for you, but the reward is also lower, right? Mm-hmm. So it takes a lot more sales to get to a very affluent level.
And some people get very frustrated by that. They fail to understand like how much the business was straight up just, here's an opportunity, not here's an idea, go make it work. It was like they'd already made the idea, created it, did all the products, did all the marketing. All you had to do was tell people about it and sell it.
Exactly.
So you're right. Like, who knows how much you should get from that, but you should get something, but.
Right. Exactly. So here's, let me get now to would I recommend network marketing again? Would I do it all over again? Absolutely. And here's why. Now, I would say that there is a caveat, and I'll get to that here in a second, but here's why I would recommend network marketing. It was the best foundation for building a bigger business that I could ever. It was a training facility. If you want to think about school as building a school as a farm for employees, network marketing is a farm for entrepreneurs. And when I look at this, business is often lonely. And that's why they don't tell you. You're often building it alone. You're often behind a computer, doing a lot of work. And, that can be, negative thoughts can get to you. But in network marketing, everybody's on the same page. They're all doing the same thing. They all experience very similar things. And so having the camaraderie around you of all your best friends saying, you know what, man, like move on to the next one. It's okay. It's okay that they quit. It's okay that they didn't buy. It's okay that, whatever, right? It is having that support system as a mindset developer. That's, I would say, the number one thing. It's also great marketing and business experience. In my time in doing Vima, I'd probably talk to 2,000 people, doing consultations and talking about the product and doing it not only for myself, but for my team. And then I also got really good at public speaking. So I would fly out to San Diego, I'd fly out to Miami, I would fly out to Amsterdam and Germany, and I would do keynote speeches all about how to build just a business. I didn't really even talk about network marketing specifically in my businesses, but it was all about marketing. Just how do you, share an idea and a vision? Like what's the process for that? How do you structure a story? How do you use digital marketing, which is actually how I got involved what I'm doing now. And I look back and everything that I'm doing with my current company, the one I'm building, it's my company. It's not somebody else's that I'm building for them, which is what I believe network marketing is. I believe that you are in business in network marketing, but you're not building your business. Make sense? Mm-hmm. You're building somebody else's brand name, right?
It's a franchise, like you said.
It's a franchise. So, now I believe that I would definitely build it in a totally different way than I did. And looking back on it, I understand why Vima and network marketing in general has a really bad rep. And I believe that the way that they market deserves a bad rep. Come on. We got kids that are overselling themselves and putting on this face that they are making it rich. And like I see all this crap by a company called MCA recently where they throw money onto a desk and take a picture of it and put it on Instagram and is like so blessed to found MCA. Dude, what are you doing? Come on. Stop making this look like a get rich quick scheme or some shit. Right? So it's frustrating that a few people will ruin the industry. And it's the tough thing is because as much as Vima, BK Barreco, and all those guys tried to control what we said, what we posted, and at the end of the day, you don't have full control over everybody. And there are going to be a few bad apples that ruin it for the rest of us. And so if I were to go back in time, I would have had a much more honest marketing approach. I would start off with selling the product and not the opportunity. And I would have set expectations better, on how quickly this should be run and what really like a good entrepreneur is about.
Yeah, I feel like we were all about, all right, 90 days. You just got signed up today. We're going to get you in a BMW in 90 days. Let's go. And it was just like managing those expectations. Okay, what happens when you don't get in the BMW in 90 days? And it was like a revolving door in my business.
Totally.
I was having tons of people leave, and, but I will say this about Vima. It gave me, like you said, the foundation, the skills, the public speaking, the confidence, whatever, the mindset change. That was one of the biggest things too, is the self-development and all that. That was the biggest thing for me that developed me into the person that I am now, gave me so many awesome connections like you. And it was crazy because we weren't even actually on the same team.
Right.
We were on totally different franchises, as you could say.
Yeah.
And it was cool because we still were able to come together and work together
Years
and
later.
collaborate. Yeah, years later and everything.
So in summary, and then we'll move on to more present day stuff.
Yeah.
Here's why I recommend network marketing. At the end of 3 years, I can guarantee that if you stick with the plan, I'm not promising money. Let's put money aside here. But at the end of 3 years in network marketing, and by the way, I want you guys to know, I'm not in it. I'm not doing it anymore. I probably won't do it again. I went through my 3 years, but I recommend that you try network marketing for 3 years if you're starting entrepreneurship for a few reasons. One, at the end of 3 years, mentally, you're going to set the foundation for building a great business. You're going to understand sales, marketing, entrepreneurship, right? You're going to then develop not only the mindset, the skills. You're going to learn one-on-one sales. You're going to be able to learn global sales, how different countries interact with each other. You're going to learn digital marketing, especially nowadays, the way a lot of businesses are being built. You're going to understand how to sell things through social media. And you're going to learn public speaking skills. And you're going to just really learn the hustle, right? I also think it's really amazing for relationships and understanding how to find mentors and seek them out and seeking the right mentors and creating your own belief. I love that all my best friends today are actually people I met in the business. And here's the reason why. It's not because I met them in the business. It's because we experienced similar things and they were the ones that didn't quit. Out of the thousands, I had thousands of people come in and out of my business. And I have about 7 best friends that all started in the business together randomly throughout the 3 years. We experienced similar things and we were the ones that made it. And they're the ones that persevered. And I think that it's a great filter for surrounding yourself and elevating your relationships because you're the sum of your 5 closest friends. And when you surround yourself with all successful people, you'll be the next one. And so now after all these years, I know who has the mindset for whatever opportunity that I ever, whether we start a business together, whether we, help each other's businesses, I know these guys aren't fooling around. They're serious about taking their dreams real and they're serious about learning the skills. And so I can now lean on these guys. I can trust them, because I've seen them work for 3 years.
That's awesome.
So I would say at the end of these 3 years of being in any business, if you stick with it, the determination, you'll get the skills, the mindset, and the relationships.
That's beautiful, man. So let's kind of, like you said, move on a little bit from the Vima thing and kind of move to what you're doing right now. So to kind of fast forward through your story, I know you started Bravado.
Yep.
And that was after Vima or during it or during that transition?
All right. Here's another intimate story for you. As many of you guys know, Vima got shut down. And actually, not permanently, but
back in action.
Frozen. It is back in action. Unfortunate for the way it went down. But basically, FBI came in because it was an alleged pyramid scheme. And they ended up actually getting out and winning against the federal government. The federal government just said, oops.
But it ended up costing them tons of money, time, and they lost a giant chunk of their business.
99% of it.
Pretty much, yeah.
And so, yeah, for 3 months, they were frozen. And all of us, our lives depended on the business. So here's where my story is with the Vima shutdown. I think this is the craziest thing of fate. craziest thing of fate. I got to the rank of diamond, which was like the car qualified, whatever.
And that's like top 1% of the whole company, right?
Yep, it is.
Nice.
And, though, it was a roller coaster ride. I wasn't making that much money, maybe $1,000, maybe a little more than that a month. And I was just like, you know what? Like, I feel like if I started my own thing at this point, it would do really well. And so it was a tough decision. But after 3 years and building all my friendships and all of this stuff, it was such a tough decision, man. I decided to quit and start my own company, Bravado Branding.
And that's a big part of the whole Vima culture too. Like you said, you were in that with your friends, and you're like, we're never gonna quit, 2-pack to the grave, like all that kind of stuff. And then you have to come to grips with the fact, like, holy shit, like I'm doing the thing that I never thought I would do and leaving.
The thing I convinced everybody not to do. I persevere. Come on, push through. But my reasons were different. It wasn't because I was I guess
giving up.
Yeah.
You were moving on to something.
Yeah. I saw opportunity in myself more than I saw in like
the future of that business.
Yeah.
I got you. Perfect.
And so here's where it gets crazy. It was the end of May, I believe, maybe April. And I call into Vima headquarters to cancel my auto delivery. And I get, currently Vima is not taking any calls. And I'm like, this is weird. And then I look at my phone and there's a few texts like, hey, what's going on with Vima? What's happening? And I'm not joking you. This is not just to make a good story. This is actually my life. The day I called in to quit is the day Vima got shut down.
That's
and I'm like,
crazy.
that is fate. Oh my God, that is fate. And I like knew like I need to start my business and like, you know, Bravado is a digital marketing agency if you guys don't know. It was a company I started, you know, back in 2015, I want to say. Yeah, I think it's 15. And so I thought it was just the craziest thing. I dedicated my life for 3 years to this business and I decided to quit. And the day I quit, the company gets shut down. Nuts. Yeah. How was your experience? Crazy. What happened with you on that day?
So actually, before the shutdown happened, me and my business partners, we were hearing some weird murmurings about the company and all this stuff. And we had actually flipped MLM. So we actually had jumped on ship with another MLM called Secret for a while as a skincare thing. And I want to say Vima got shut down in, what was it, like October or later in the year?
Oh, was it later in the year?
Maybe it was. So I could be wrong.
I just remember walking on campus and it being nice outside when I made that call.
I could be wrong, but basically we switched in like the summer, and then like 3 months later Vima got shut down. And it was kind of, at that point, I was kind of where you were, where I was just like, I think I need to kind of move on. And I kind of just fizzled out of Secret slowly and weirdly, to be honest. I never had this like exact date where I was like, I'm done. Well, I guess kind of the day that I canceled.
You don't seem like a skincare guy to me.
Exactly. It was weird, but it actually opened me up to a lot of cool skincare stuff, and I actually still use their products, which is crazy.
Nice. They do create great products. I will say like this industry creates good stuff.
That is what was really cool, is their products were cool, and you know, it just ended up, I don't need to even go into it, but it was just, we flip-flop companies, and then I fizzled out of that because I think I was just, I put in my 3 years and I was kind of done. But yeah, so when I found out that news though, that was kind of when I was like, wow, that's a big, it wasn't, I remember it was in the summer. It wasn't in the fall, because I remember I was in Italy when I found out. And I remember like, it was the trippiest thing, because that was when I kind of decided to do something different with my life and travel more, and I was just like, wow. I won't say, this is kind of disrespectful, but it was almost like, where were you when the Twin Towers fell? Where were you when you found the news that Vima, the giant that was supposed to be to the moon, to the billions, all that kind of stuff.
They were so close to $1 billion when they got shut down.
Yeah, and that was the craziest thing. And so I was just like, whoa. And I made this really long Facebook post about it, kind of talking about my days there and the people that I met and how inspirational and amazing it was for me. But
wow.
But yeah, I remember now, because I was in Italy, and it was so trippy because I was sitting on the other side of the world just thinking about all my experiences and all that kind of stuff.
You know, here was I think the toughest part of me was leaving and starting my own business, but my identity was in the company.
Same here.
So, like, I just thought about myself as, like, I'm a diamond in Vima. I am a leader. I'm a public speaker. And all of these things that made me who I am, the story I told myself about who I am as a person, went with Vima.
Mm-hmm.
When Vima got shut down, I was no longer a leader because I didn't have my team. I was no longer a public speaker because where would I speak at? I was no longer a diamond, which, was the
your
rank.
social status among these thousands of people.
Yeah.
When people heard you were a diamond and you're in Vima, they would look up to you like you were a god.
Dude. Oh, yeah, they would. Like, you would... we would walk down through the Vegas halls, like in the Mirage or something, and people would, like, literally come up to me and, like, take photos with me and ask me to sign shit. I'm like... it boosted my ego, which is not a good inflated my head. But it was pretty nuts to think like they worshipped somebody who was barely making any money.
Yeah, it is pretty nuts. Like you said, you're making like $1,000 a month, which
yeah.
Cool, but nothing to worship and ask for autographs about. But you had achieved something in that business that they only knew how hard it was to get to that spot, because it was very, very difficult to get to that spot.
So here's where I think the fame came in was not about the money. It was about the fact that to get to Diamond, the trials and tribulations that you have to go through as an entrepreneur. And so getting to Diamond was a stamp of approval that you are a good enough entrepreneur.
Exactly. And the edification.
To be worthwhile.
The edification that everyone else gave you too, like when you came on stage, whoever was introducing you would make you sound like the most badass, awesome entrepreneur of all time.
Yeah.
And so of course afterwards, people are like, oh shit, there's Austin. We need to get a picture with him. Oh shit, doing big things, grinding baby, like like posting on Instagram.
Oh my god,
that
caption game back in the day. And the PowerPoint, right? You always have the finger. You got to always point to the guy making the money, right?
Exactly.
Everybody, nobody planned to do it. It just happened.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody's just pointing.
You take a picture with Brad Elkas and you point to him. You got a picture with Alex, you point to him. It was funny.
Yeah.
But, so you started Bravado after you quit.
I want to talk about the identity thing.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is something I think a lot of people struggle with, and it's something I've been thinking about more recently. An influential guy to me is a guy named Wayne Dyer. If you are in the personal development space, you've probably known of him, and he recently passed away. But Wayne is an incredible author, and he's also introduced me to I wouldn't call it a religion, but it's a way about thinking about the universe. It's called Taoism, and spelled T-A-O. The pronunciation is with a D. And the first line of the Tao says, if you name the Tao, it is no longer the Tao. Meaning that if you name whatever created us, you have given it an identity, it is no longer that thing. So the universe is in everything, it is everything. It created itself. Now, this isn't to get religious, but it's an important conversation about identity. One of the other lines, it's a manuscript, it's probably 86 lines, I think. One of the lines is, you are not what you own. You are not your accomplishments. You are not, what people think of you. You are not what you have. And it's everything that it defines the ego. And when Vima got shut down and I was no longer a diamond, I wasn't my achievements. And I was no longer a public speaker, the skills I have or whatever, right? And I was no longer my money or the cool car or whatever. I was no longer any of these things. Who was I? I was no longer Vima. I was no longer my business. And so it's an important conversation to think about, who are you really? What are you about? You strip away everything. You're not your clothes. You're not your followers on Instagram. You're not any of that. That is your ego. And as you remove everything that creates you as an ego, your car, all this stuff, right? Mm-hmm. When you remove those things, you are now closer to the universe because you are most like it. because it does not have an identity. So I found a lot of self-reflection, and I have not come up with the answer yet. Still reflecting. But I think it's an important self-reflection to have on yourself is, Andrew, you're not your listeners. You're not your podcast. You're not, the cool clothes you have on. You're none of these things. So what are you really? And I think it's really important to define what that is, like who makes Andrew.
Definitely. I think traveling has helped me out with that the most. I mentioned this yesterday.
You're not your photos, right?
No, not the photos. And it was interesting because I think when you go for this whole Instagram travel type of deal, where you go to travel just to take the picture, just to say I did the thing, you're defeating the purpose. And solo traveling especially is the biggest way for me to, you strip away. I've talked about this a couple times on the podcast. Actually, yesterday I had a podcast with my friend Remy, and she was a solo traveler, and we talked a lot about this, where when you're in a different place and your friends aren't there and your family's not there and you're limited to the clothes that you can wear because you can't bring your whole closet with you, right, and you're stripped down and maybe you don't have, even your phone might not work and all this kind of stuff, and you have no one to really impress besides, the people that you've just met, you kind of, you can strip away that. You don't have your car, you don't have all this stuff, and you can start to realize, like, wow, who am I and what am I about and what do I stand for and does it all matter and all that kind of stuff. And that was one moment, kind of poetic to bring it back to the Vima thing. Like, I was like, holy shit, I'm on the other side of the world, and this giant has fallen, and that was something that I put my whole identity in, and now it's gone. Yeah. And what am I and who am I? And I think everyone wants to put themselves into a box, because you want to put other people into a box. I am a Republican, you are a liberal, I hate you. Yeah. And you want to just say, this issue is black and white, I understand it, you're wrong, I'm right. Abortion, it's wrong, it's right, I'm pro-life, you're pro-choice, you're black, I'm white. Right. And you want to put everyone into these boxes, but you can't. You have to strip it down, like you were saying, and you have to really dig deep and figure out who you are by stripping all that away and realizing that you are not the sum of your possessions, you are not what you have, you're not who you know, you're not the pictures that you've taken, you're not your social media presence. Right. What if the apocalypse is tomorrow and,
Internet's down, who are you?
Yep, internet's down. Yep, for sure. And that was one thing I talked about yesterday with my friend too. She doesn't wear makeup at all. She has natural hair and she doesn't wear makeup. She's been like that for the past 2 years. And she said that now she feels less beautiful when she puts on makeup. Wow. And she actually thinks, wow, this isn't my natural state. I feel uncomfortable and I feel less beautiful. And I think that's amazing because you have to tap into that for yourself and figure out who you really are. And your body's not you either. Yeah. That's another thing that, it's a vehicle. It's this vehicle that you've been given to live out your life. Yep. That's how you interact with everything. But you're you with that. If you were a burn victim and you had all your, you were paralyzed and you had all your skin burned off, are you still you? You have a different body now and you're limited, but I would say you're still you.
Good point. So,
I know you've got to go in a second too, because you've got to go to that dentist appointment.
But I have 10 minutes.
Okay, cool.
Let's finish up in 10 minutes.
Cool.
So what's next, man?
What's next for me? Or this podcast?
The podcast.
For the podcast, I would say, are you saying like, what are my goals for the podcast? Or what's next that we're going to talk about?
What do you want to talk about for the next 10 minutes?
Okay, cool. Next 10 minutes. I would say let's talk about what you're doing right now with EA and anything else you want to share.
Sure. Yeah, guys, so basically, fast forward from the Vima days, started Bravado, right? The day of Vima shutting down. Went on to build that business for 2 years and got it up to about $8,700 a month was my highest amount of retainers, recurring retainers every month.
So a lot higher than the Vima.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot more, I wouldn't actually say it was a lot more fun, but I did like that I could claim like everything was me, right? Ownership of that. So I met mentors online that helped me grow this thing too. One of the guys, his name is Dave Rogan-Moser, and just really started reaching out to some of the more heavy hitters in the online space. And we decided to start this company called the Entrepreneur Alliance. And basically being this community, a global community of some of the most bright minds that share ideas openly, and they're vulnerable and they're transparent. And every week I bring in, I host a masterclass every week, about an hour-long training that's very tactical. So it's like how to use Facebook advertising in the most effective way to grow your business. Like, what are some of the techniques? And I'll bring in somebody who's doing very well. I'm talking, guys in their 20s that are making, thousands of dollars a day on Facebook. So pretty cool there. Now it's been about 8 months since we started the company.
And you moved to Annapolis.
I did move to Annapolis to start this. It's an internet-based business, yet, when you get around a team and everybody's focused on the goals of the company, every day we bought an office. I have my own recording studio now. Everything happens faster. Decisions are made quicker. There's no lag time in communication. So it was the first time I've ever been in like a business that's a team-based business that is focused on, like, obviously Vima is a team-based business, but a team that is focused on one objective as a collective. So that's been good for us. We actually hit our goals this month 30 days early. So
wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. How many members do you guys have in EA right now?
Currently 800 members in about 45 countries.
Wow.
Membership is $30 a month. And actually about to launch a really cool premium product that I'm sure by the time that this is live, it'll be live too, at $250 a month. And it's like a very elite package.
Okay.
It has to be earned. You can't buy your way in. But once you are in there, yeah.
That's cool. So for to kind of try to get, like, if you can, in the next 5 minutes, give some like practical stuff that people can implement. Obviously joining EA is an awesome part to collaborate and learn about becoming an entrepreneur and stuff. But let's say someone's listening to this right now, and all this stuff is making a lot of sense, but they're like, how the hell do I get started?
Sure.
I want to start my own business. Right now I'm stuck and I want to change something. What's the biggest advice you can give?
I would say it's all about commitment. So you grow into the things that you commit to. And so if you are committed to growing this podcast, everything that you think about all day, every day, and every conversation should revolve some way in getting one step closer to the ultimate commitment. And so if you're committed, let's say, to become a digital nomad and to go on, work out of a computer and travel the world, everything that you do needs to be focused on committing, and not just mentally committing, but in your heart, commit in your gut to the thing that you want to seek. So that's the number one thing, commitment, right? That's going to change what you listen to every day, the audios that you listen to, the things that you watch at night. So instead of burning through Game of Thrones, which is a great series, instead, maybe watch some, Alex Becker at night, if you are in the online marketing space, or, watch the EA masterclasses to learn skills in your break time. If you're working in a job and you want to start your own company and you're really committed to that, dead committed, then every single conversation needs to start hey, who do you know in business? Start getting around those guys. It'll rub off on you. Then you start learning the skills. How do I learn how to start an online business? And you start learning Facebook advertising and email marketing and graphic design and, all the different ways to build an online business, affiliate, SEO, Facebook ads, right? So everything is focused when you commit to your goals. And I'm talking about keeping your goals in front of your eyes at all times. Put Post-it notes on the dashboard of your car. Write it on your mirror. Every day have a morning grateful routine, and then at night, have I'm blessed because today this happened. And everything revolves around reflecting on what today did I do that got me one step closer to my commitment. And if you just focus on that, like how are you going to every day commit a little bit more, do a little bit more, not a lot more, just 1% more. But over the course of a year, you commit to growing 1% every day, you're going to get a lot better, 300 times better, 360% better than you were the year before.
If not more.
Exactly.
That's amazing, dude. And it all compounds. It's all about the tiny little decisions you make. That's awesome, dude. Well, cool. Well, do you have any other last things you want to promote? Where can people find you if they want to ask you questions or watch your stuff?
Yeah, I'm really open to like connecting with anybody. So if you want to just shoot me a Facebook message, that's easiest. Austin Distel, Distel. And Instagram, I respond to all my Instagram DMs. And then, yeah, I would love, if you're an entrepreneur, join the Entrepreneur Alliance. It's going to be the best thing for you. It's only $30 a month. Think about it, like $1 a day to build an incredible business, get around like-minded people. Not only will you do trainings every single week with a millionaire, but I also hold live events in many major countries. In fact, I bet you that there is an entrepreneur in our company down the street from you. And you want to check it out? Go to jointhealliance.co/map. And I bet you that there's somebody in your neighborhood. At 800 people now in 45 countries, there's a good probability. Unless you're in Botswana or something crazy. But like, yeah, so if you're in the US, really good chance. If you look on the map, it's like almost all red.
That's awesome.
With little dots.
That's so awesome, dude.
Yeah, man. So definitely think that that's the best $30 anybody that's an entrepreneur will ever spend. And yeah, guys, I would love to just hear what ideas you're working on. That fuels my fire, is hearing really cool stuff that others are working on, what they're passionate about.
Sweet. Well, awesome. This is an awesome podcast. I really enjoyed it.
This was fun.
And we should do it again, for sure.
Let's do it, man.
Cool.
Hey, thanks so much, bro.
All right, of course. See you, everybody. Man, that was a really good podcast. I really appreciate Austin coming on the show, carving out some time out of his busy schedule to make it happen. I definitely need to record another one with him soon. He's such an awesome dude. Love talking with that guy. But if you want to connect with Austin, you can find him on Facebook and Instagram. His name's just Austin Distel. Pretty easy to find. You can also check out his website, which is austindistel.com. And his website is actually really, really nicely put together. It's really beautiful. It's really fun to look at, too, if you're a nerd like me. Definitely get some inspiration from his website. But you can find all of his links to his social media stuff there, too. But if you're interested in the Entrepreneur Alliance, you can join today at jointhealliance.co. And you can sign up for a trial for actually only $1. And you can join this amazing global club of entrepreneurs and work with me, Austin, Owen Lutz from episode 10, and many more of our friends. But as always, if you want to support the podcast, best way to do that is to go to the podcast app if you have an iPhone, or if you don't, go to the iTunes store and find the Andrew Deitch podcast and leave me a 5-star review. That is super helpful. I'm trying to get into that new and noteworthy section, so if you can download all the episodes, that would really, really help me out, even if you're not going to listen to all of them, because I'm trying to get into the new and noteworthy section. So download as many podcasts as you can. If you want to follow me, the best way to do that is to go to my website, andrewdeitch.com. Tons of websites today. Got andrewdeitch.com. That's Andrew, DEITSCH.com. You can find links to all my social media handles and stuff like that there. All right, episode 16 is up next with my friend Kohan Christopher Scott. But I always call him CC. That's how I've always known him. CC is a super talented musician. His style is super unique. He draws inspiration from so many different artists like Outkast, Kanye West, Coheed and Cambria, Incubus, Stevie Wonder. The list goes on. He's got so many influences, and he's like an encyclopedia for music, man. He just knows so much about music and its history, and we had an awesome conversation about music and culture, And it was definitely one of the most unique podcasts I've done so far. And I really, really enjoyed it. So you don't want to miss out on that one. Keep it locked. That one's coming up next. But as always, I want to thank you guys for listening. You guys are really keeping me motivated. The fact that so many people are downloading and listening is like amazing. So thank you so much for checking this out and joining me on this crazy ride that I'm taking. Just working. I mean, it's midnight right now. Last night I didn't go to bed till 4. Tonight it's going to be a late one too. I'm just using all of my energy and pouring it into this thing right now. So I really, really, really appreciate you guys listening. I'm going to upload this thing and then I'm going to sleep. I'm recording episode 18 tomorrow morning with my buddy Luke Crawford, bright and early, 8 a.m. So I need to go to bed. So if I sound tired during that episode, you'll know why. But I'm going to sleep as soon as I finish. All right. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. And I'll see you tomorrow.